So we had Access Consciousness Publishing, and now I am so excited to talk to somebody who has worked with Access for over 24 years, I believe, and has been instrumental with bringing access to all the different places and corners that it is in the world. She is a major force in this area. And she's also one of our Access Consciousness authors. She has written quite a few books, The Joy of Business, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? And possibly others. We'll talk about that in a second. But welcome, Simone Millicis.
Hello, Julia.
Hi. Woo! Thanks for coming on today.
Say, man, I just heard that you've been going for 4 hours straight. You're amazing.
I have. Thank you. I'm having so much fun.
I adore you. You are you're amazing. Thank you for being you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's like I'm just so grateful every day to have the life and the tools that I have. And and so much of that is just been access, these access tools. And so much of what I've learned, I've actually learned from the books. That's where I started with access. I didn't know much about access, and I was like, let me order some books, and I read them, and I was just amazed with how much I could change my life just from these books.
I agree. And I'm going to do Snap because I've got that book here too.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So
play Snap, see who's got all the books. No.
This is your test. So Simone, what books have you? Did I miss one, or was it The Joy of Business?
I love you.
Joyfully.
No, here's what I'm going to acknowledge is you're probably very aware, because I'm currently working on 2 books that are not released, right?
That's what it was.
So this is my first book, Joy of Business, which I think is in 18 languages now. This is my second book, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And they're all really, I'm going to say, without close to my heart in the way of there's got some really vulnerable stories in both of those books of all the different things that I chose and how I used the tools and where I got to. And then this one, which is I think the one that you wanted me to talk about today, is Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? And I snapped, and I and I wrote that with my ex, Brendan Watt, which I think is I think it comes with a bit of a funny story, right? So basically, we were together in a relationship for 8 years, and we would not have been in a relationship for 8 years if it wasn't for Gary Douglas and the Access Consciousness tools. Every time we hit a crunchy spot, we were smart enough to, one of us or both of us would be like, Gary, and we'd call him and talk to him, and he'd go blah, blah, blah. And can I say 90% of the tools that he gave me, I did not want to choose. I was like, I don't want to do that. I distinctly remember this one time, and if you need to run off to the bathroom, you can.
Yeah, I texted Simone. I said, I might have to go to the loo during your talk because it's been a few hours.
You need to go to the restroom. The restroom. So if you go to the restroom, or you need to go to the powder room, then people picture you just powdering your nose. When you say loo, they now picture you on the toilet. Okay, so you're just going to powder your nose real quick. All right.
I do. My nose is powderless, so I have to take care of that.
Yes.
And people are saying translators are having a hard time hearing Simone. I hear Simone great. I wonder what's going on.
Let me check I just muted myself. I do not know what else to do. I'll speak slower, maybe.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay.
Wow. Okay. I can speak slower. You should see how I used to speak when I first came along to Access, and then all the translators were like, is she actually speaking English?
Aussie? Was it more Aussie?
Oh, yeah. And we shorten everything, and we, and just fast and half sentences. So I think I've come a long way, but I can slow down if you want. So let me know on the little private chat thing there. So let me tell you this story while you quickly go to the powder room.
Okay.
And I can, yeah. So there's one, so like I said, my relationship would not have lasted 8 years if it wasn't for Gary Douglas and the Access Consciousness tools. And there's one tool that I remember distinctly. I live across the road from the beach, and I was annoyed at my partner. I have no idea why. It was probably something so little, whatever. I have no idea why. I do not remember that part of the story. But I was walking on the beach, and Gary said to me, he rang me, and he was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I was like, well, blah, 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 and had a little bit of a rant. And he said to me, you need to go home and make everything about him. I was like, what? I was like, no, I don't want to make everything about him. I want everything to be about me, and he was like, I'm telling you, if you walk into the house and you make everything about him, things will change. Now, such a simple thing to say to someone, to suggest to someone, right? And sometimes the Access Consciousness tools, we make it difficult to choose because we can't control it. It's not what we thought should happen, etc. And I wanted everything to be about me at that moment. And he's telling me to flip it. So I went, okay, I'm just going to give this a shot because this is not fun. Like what I'm in right now is not joyful. So I went home and I walked in the house and I just started making everything about him. And I started asking him questions and just, acknowledging him. And I actually don't even remember exactly what it was I was saying or what I was being with that. But I do remember within, I'm not kidding, 5 minutes, Brendan was like, hey, what would you like me to cook you for dinner tonight? Can I make you a drink? Can I make you a cocktail? Like, can I make, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is working. So I was making everything about him and he flipped it and he started making everything about me. So it's like that whole tool of everything is the opposite of, of what it is. Everything is the opposite of what it appears to be and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And so often with relationships, we try and get our dukes up. Like we try and go into fight. I mean, even yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine and this is a relationship with her daughter. And her daughter is getting all these piercings, etc. Like she's, 16. And she was like, rah, and I said, okay, here's what you should do. And I said, walk into the house. And I said, and just be like, oh my God, where'd you get the piercings? Are you happy? Did it hurt? Oh my, that looks amazing. And she was like, but I don't want to do that. And she's spending her money on this. And then she wants me. And I was like, no. And so we had like a 5-minute conversation of taking the resistance out, right? And I said, so then the next time she says, can I get money for ice cream? Just go, you know what, at the moment, and it's like, I'm looking at everything I'm spending my money on and is it creating a greater future? And ice cream's a big no for now. But hey, you might have the money. Like I said, put it back on her because she's spending money on getting, piercings, but let her choose, We had this whole conversation and she went, my God, this is so much easier. And I was like, yeah, well, conflict is designed to create separation. The word relationship means the distance between two things. So do you want to create a relationship, like the distance between two things? Or would you like to have something that is more of a communion, whether that's with your kids, your partner, your friends, etc.? And there's a whole lot of Access Consciousness tools that enable that, like to give up those expectations and the projections that you have of you, of the relationship, and of the other person. So, but the funny story is, Julia, when we released this book, we were in the United States and we had these interviews with, Fox TV in different areas and blah, 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 like all these different things set up with our PR agent, and we'd just broken up. She nearly had a heart attack because she's like, oh my God, we're launching this book and we've got all this media and this TV. And I was like, don't worry about it. We've got this, because the whole idea is it's a question. Relationship, are you sure you want one? And for me, and I know Brandon as well, is we both desired to empower people to be in question and not choose relationship based on a necessity, but choose it because it works for you, So that's what we ended up talking about on all of our media. So,
hey, that's awesome. I mean, it's such a different way of looking at it. And I'm going through a close friend of mine is going through a divorce right now. And So I've been kind of with her through that. We've been spending a lot of time together and running a lot of bars together. And it's interesting because one of the things that she keeps coming up against is just how important marriage is. And somebody assigned her the reality TV show Love is Blind. And
Right.
it's basically where it's a reality show where they don't see each other. They go into these pods and then they get to know each other without seeing each other. And then they get married, they get engaged before they see each other.
Wow.
And then they walk down the aisle, they do the whole thing. And these are legally binding marriages, although the TV show does pay for $5,000 towards the divorces. But we're watching the show and running bars, and she's like, I don't like this show. This show is making a joke of marriage. And I'm like, but isn't marriage kind of like, do we have to take it so seriously? Can we actually lighten it up? Can it be a choice? And I noticed for me that I'm married, but I don't feel married. And when I take it really seriously or I try to make the relationship significant, it ends up being very painful. And I usually end up creating conflict with my husband, actually. And when I'm like, it's an interesting point of view. It's like, every day is different. Some days I don't see him. Some days I do. He travels, I travel. It just feels kind of like friends who have a business relationship, who live together, who have sex, not a marriage. It's actually two totally different energies. So I love that about this book is it takes the heaviness and the significance out of relationship.
Well, I think you also have to look at the history of relationships and, why they were created. I mean, you talk about marriage, and I was brought up a Catholic. So, I went to Catholic school, nuns, the whole bit, right? So marriage is a sacred vow and etc. So I always looked at, if you get married, you stay married, right? So I didn't look at, if you get married, you get divorced. I'm not against divorce or anything, but I was like, well, why would I choose to get married if I have, like, I was always like, I don't get it. For me personally, I don't know what I want to do in 10 years time. So how am I going to look at somebody and say, hey, I want to be with you for the next 50, 60, 70 years, like for the rest of my life? I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up, So it never made sense in my world personally. And I always had this point of view that what if you could be with somebody and, I don't know, once a year or every 5 years, you sat down and you celebrated, because you were like honoring of each other. It was like, hey, I'm so grateful I've had you this year, or, we've played together. Do we want to go another year? Do we want to tack on some more time? And if not, let's call it, quits and be like, thank you so much. Because for me, it's like so many people end up divorce or, ending their relationship, and it's got all this trauma and drama to it. What if we could change that narrative, so that if you are in a relationship and it's time to call it quits, like, have you done what you were meant to do together? Then maybe move on and create something different. Like, I think we're in a time now, Julia, that you can choose something different. And like I said, if you look at the history of relationships, the history of marriage, I will speak slower, the history of marriage, a lot of it was done to create wealth. Like, I always remember seeing this movie, and, it was, based on hundreds of years ago. And this girl has to marry this, prince or some noble man or something like that. And she's saying, I don't love him. I don't want to be with him. And she was in love with, like, the baker boy,
Right.
And the mother says, look, you have to marry him. And what you do after the marriage is up to you. Basically, go and have a billion affairs, do whatever you want, but you need to marry this man so that we can gain this land, we can gain this wealth. So how many people got married to gain wealth? I mean, look at women. It's not that long that women have been empowered to go out there and be, successful and be able to support themselves, etc. Like, I mean, when did, were women allowed to vote or actually work in corporate world or business world or own businesses or any of that? Like, it's not that long that usually it was about depending on a man. So times have changed, and I think marriage is a choice. I think relationship is a choice. And nowadays I do get it's not so wrong to be in a relationship, and it's also not wrong to be single. It's like it is a choice. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of things out there now too where people have two relationships, or they have a relationship that is more of a threesome, like a throuple, like, and it's happening, like, and people are happy with their choices. And for me, I heard Christopher Hughes say once, and I thought, God, that's so brilliant, is what if you stop depending on one person for everything? So if you look at it and you go, okay, so I want to depend on this person for how we create ourselves financially, to share everything with, to share a bed with, to share a home with, to have sex with, to be my best friend, like all of these things. That's a lot to put on another person. What if you were like, wow, this person is such a contribution in these areas, and I'm going to actually, there's a billion, billions of people out there. I'm going to find some other people that are a contribution to me in a different way.
I love that. I love that. That is just, there's so much freedom in that. And like, I've noticed that I've had times where, even in the relationship with my stepkids who, I mean, they're kind of more than stepkids, because it's not like their mom passed away, you know what I mean? So they were a really big part of my life, and such close friends to me. And now that they're growing up and moving out, it's like I'm searching, for that energy in my life, and I wanted to hold on to them and hold on to that. And it's like, no, like, let them fly. And what else would I like to create? How else would I like to live my life? And
Yeah.
I've created all these new things, but at first I wanted to hold on the way that we do. And then as soon as I let go and I started asking, what else can I add to my life? It's like, I don't have that emptiness.
You just ping something that most people look at, is that define being close to someone means geographically they have to be close, rather than you don't lose your relationship with them. It just changes. And it's like, what can that change bring for you and for them and even for others by choosing that? It's like life is constantly this, pivoting and changing the trajectory and choosing something different and something greater. It's like most of us, I mean, there is so much, mental health stuff in the world. There is so much depression, anxiety, and all of that. If we actually truly let go of everything that we decided we were yesterday, and all the definitions that we have of ourselves and all of our relationships, like every single day you woke up and you're like, oh my God, I've got this beautiful, amazing body, this amazing planet, and I get to choose to be me. And you destroy and uncreate your relationships with everybody every single day, then what else could show up? And we try and hang on to this whole structured reality that we've created of, this is my sister, my brother, my lover, my husband, my wife, my stepchild, my aunt, my whatever. And it's like, how many structured realities do we have in that maintain this smaller, finite life, rather than every day just being, wow, how did I get so lucky to be alive on this planet? And what else is truly possible for me today? Yeah. Universe, show me something different. So show me something greater. What can I receive today that I wasn't willing to receive yesterday? Like that energy. And then for me, you don't have relationships anymore. You have what we've referred to as creationships, which are so malleable, and they keep expanding and growing, and they come together, they come apart, whether that's geographical or not, or there's no meaning or significance in, oh my God, how many times have we had sex this week or not had sex this week, or did they call me, or you've got a kid and they've just gone off, and it's like, man, they need to fly. They might not want to call you, or they might text you every day. None of it means anything. Everything is just a choice. And if we lived our lives from just a choice, what else is possible? What contribution could we be for each other?
Totally. Can you talk a little bit, because I love the specialty relationship done different. Can you just talk a little bit about that? So it's the
Yeah.
specialty of relationship done different is a sub, like a specialty of classes within Access Consciousness that you teach, Simone. And there's just so much power in that specialty.
Well, I mean, if you look out there in social media and across the world, how many people are trying to create the right relationship? Like, and it's the most important thing to them, their relationships. Well, for me, what if the most important thing is the relationship that you have with you? The relationship that you have with you and your body. And relationship done different is, yeah, like you said, it's a specialty class. So we do classes. The biggest one, like the main one, is relationships done different. That's what it's called, right? And we call them RDD facilitators, are all over the world. But then you've also got a little bit of an intro class that's called relationships beyond normal. There's also one which cracks me up is something like after being divorced, like, oh, that's right, breaking up is easy-ish. Like, there's going to be some stuff that you deal with, right? But what if you could have a breakup that's going to be easy-ish, and we've got a whole bunch of tools, and hopefully it's a funny class that you can play with. And then there's a new class that we have that I just facilitated, and you do those classes and you're like, I want to facilitate it again. It was so good.
Yeah.
It's on the five elements of intimacy. And for me, I can't tell you the amount of times I've facilitated relationships done different, and you get people who come in, usually women, who are like, okay, can you make my partner do this? Or what do I do to blah, 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 and it's about how can I change the relationship to work for me so that I can control it or get it right or, blah, blah. It's usually about like a limitation. And then by the end of this is, I'm telling you what is on the last page of a book now. By the end of the class, it is one of the most beautiful classes to facilitate when you see so many people who finally get, oh, wow, if I can have a relationship with me, there's something different. And the 5 elements of intimacy that we have is, and if you just look at this, even just, even put your hands on your body somewhere now while I'm talking, and what would it take for you to have and be the 5 elements of intimacy with you, the being, and you, your body, right? Which is trusting you, honoring you, being in allowance of you, having gratitude for you, your body, and being vulnerable. And vulnerable is not a weakness. So many people in this reality have defined it as a weakness. No, it's such a power and a potency to have all of that with you. And if you wake up with those 5 elements of intimacy with you, I'm going to actually call this then and only then can you have that with somebody else.
Right.
And I think we grow up our whole life looking at how can I have this with somebody else? Can somebody else show up so that they have gratitude for me because then I'll be acknowledged? Start with you. Start acknowledging you. You start having those 5 elements of intimacy and you'll be so surprised of what shows up from that.
Truly. I just noticed that, like, I don't know, I just always had a need for validation. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be, people to give me compliments, acknowledge me. And, after I started really working with those 5 elements of intimacy and making the demand that I was going to be that for myself and not need that from anybody else, it's just, God, it's a great way to walk through life, to have yourself and not need anything from anybody else. And then everything that you do get is a gift and never a necessity.
Well, then you start receiving. And, we all think we want a bigger life, and a bigger life is from, whether it's more money or a bigger business or, how many people you have in your life or the best relationship or, all of that. What if a bigger life is you simply receiving? And being needless, you receive from everything and everyone. I'm asking for more of that every single day.
Wow. I love that. Whew. Wow. So what would you like to see as the future of relationships on planet Earth?
Choice, 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 choice. No matter what you choose, you're not wrong. Choose because it's fun for you and it's joyful for you and joyful for your body as well. Like, I mean, and you look at relationships as one thing, and then you look at sex as another, because so many people go relationships and sex and they're together. Well, they're actually not. You create relationships, and then you can have sex and copulation with whoever you desire. So it doesn't have to go in the same box. Like, and there's so many things that people have been creating now with situationships, or I mean, it started, I think, with the terminology of friends with benefits. And so you can have sex with the same person that you are choosing to be in a relationship with, but ask yourself the question, is it actually working for you? Like, what works for you? And one of the things I did, Julia, was I started writing down what I desired with the pretense to myself that I don't have to show anyone this list. So no matter how weird, kinky, different, anything I get, nobody has to look at this list, okay? Because I didn't want to write a list that if someone found it, I was like, it was just like, no, this is my list, And it's interesting, the judgments that you think people will have, and getting to the place of like, who cares? Like, why do I care? But the one thing that I really, that gave me a lot of freedom is, I don't actually, in this 10 seconds, I'm not so sure I would ever live with somebody again. And relationship wise, if I did, it would have to be a really big house. And I love the whole Downton Abbey thing of you have your own bedroom, you have your own bathroom, your own sitting room. Yeah, they have that as well. You can have an interconnecting door. You can sleep in the same bed every night if you choose. But when you go off to powder your nose, you're in your own bathroom. Nobody else is walking in there. Like, I have in my bathroom now, which I think this is hilarious. I did a video in there one day, and it's got 2 sinks, right? The his and her sinks. And since I broke up with my ex, it's like I live in this 2-story house now that is big. Like, I remember Chris coming here going, this is a really big house for one person. And I was like, yep. And I like it that way, But in one of my sinks in my bathroom, I have all my makeup in there because it's just really handy. It's right near the mirror. And a friend of mine went, oh, you can't do that because if you have all your makeup in there, it's not inviting anybody in, like, feng shui, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not asking anyone to come and share my bathroom.
Right.
I'm cool with that,
You're like, what's the feng shui for the opposite of that? Like,
yeah, exactly. This is my bathroom. I'm not sure where you're coming from, but this is my bathroom, And the funny thing is, it's like, I do have, I have someone in my life who I play with, my lover, but I have another bathroom. He comes over and he literally uses the other bathroom. That's good. Tick that box, It's like, so you got to create your reality, create what works for you.
Yeah. For real. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes, you're welcome, Julia.
Fun. I love getting to talk to you, and I love the tools of relationships done different. It's like at first it's like, do I really want to give up the fantasy relationship, the fantasy idea that my prince one day will come? And not in that way, or maybe in that way, but it's like, you if you're willing to have something different, there's just such a wonderful way of walking through the world and being with yourself and everybody else.
And you've got to give up control, and you've got to give up trying to be right. Like, everything that you've decided that you wanted, destroy and uncreate all of that. And then every day wake up and go, okay, so what is actually available for me today? And can I say, I don't know what books you've mentioned, but we have this as a relationship book, right? But we also have divorceless relationships. Oh. And then we also, and sex is not a 4-letter word, but relationship oftentimes is. Mm-hmm. So if you have that topic of relationship up in your world, get the books. Like, read the books, go to a class. Like, it's you have the choice to create more freedom in your world. That's your choice.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Have an awesome Australian day.
I will. Can I tell you, the future is bright.
It is. Yeah. Great. Simone gives Gaia and myself, like the weather, what's going to happen today, a day ahead, because she's already lived it. So it's great.
Well, I'm going to say this week's been a little tough on me. I've had some stuff going on where I'm like, my whole world has been twisted. Today, it's the 24th here. It's Wednesday, and it's a good day today, okay? It's a much better day today. So if you've got some shit going on in your world, don't worry about it. It gets better.
Awesome. And that's the forecast and some relationship news from Simone.
Thank you so much for being you, Julia.
Thanks, Simone. Thank you for being here. Awesome. Bye-bye. All right, guys.